John and everybody. Dre Greenlaw recently spoke to Bay Area media, and our friend Cam Inman, who covers the 49ers for the Bay Area News Group, tweeted this quote. This is what Greenlaw said about Javon Kinlaw. I think Kinlaw can do the same thing and may very well be the defensive rookie of the year, the same thing being what Nick Bosa did last year.
If you like this video or any other videos you've seen us do, subscribe to the page. That's Guy. I'm John. We also have a podcast down below in the description. Subscribe to that as well.
All right, let's talk about this quote. Can Javon Kinlaw back up Nick Bosa and give the Niners back-to-back defensive rookie of the years? These are the odds, Middlecoff, for the defensive rookie of the year from mybookie.ag. Chase Young, Isaiah Simmons, Patrick Queen, Jeff Okudah, Kenneth Murray, Willie Gay. There's Javon Kinlaw with actually better odds than Gay or Murray, and then Derek Brown.
I think it's difficult for a defensive tackle. And the last defensive tackle to win it was Aaron Donald, who came into the league and was elite.
Yeah.
Right.
And he won it the year after Sheldon Richardson won it.
Yeah, and so that you had back-to-back insane, crazy defensive tackle pass rushers. Aaron Donald also won it on a year when Khalil Mack and Clowney came out. So it shows you like how good he really was. But to be most times, Guy, it's stats. Marcus Peters, picks, PBUs, Bosa, sacks. You look at Lattimore, PBUs, Darius Leonard had a ton of tackles. I don't think Kinlaw by any means, I wouldn't put him at the top of the list. Like Chase Young, if he can have a 10-sack year and look like a Hall of Famer, he can do it. But to me, the guy who I feel most confident about would be Patrick Queen, because stats matter a lot in this. And he's going to be the starting middle linebacker for the Ravens, who are going to win a bunch of games. Now, Kinlaw is going to be a starter on a team that's also going to win a ton of games. But he could have a year where he's just an excellent player and gets 4 or 5 sacks. They could win 12 games. You would agree he can't win this award with 4 or 5 sacks. It probably has to be 9, which is just so hard for a defensive tackle guy.
Yeah, that's what Bosa had last year. Here's a question. Can he win the award with DeForest Buckner stats? 7.5 sacks, 62 combined tackles. Bosa last year was 9 sacks, 47 combined tackles.
I think where it gets difficult, sometimes you see some corners here, Marcus Peters and Lattimore.
Yeah.
Well, what did those two guys have in common? Marcus Peters was on the Chiefs. They're good. Lattimore, Saints, they're good. So I look at Okudah and I look at C.J. Henderson. They're on shitty teams. So they could have 12 PBUs. I don't know if it's going to meet, or 5 picks. Who cares, right? It's going to be difficult.
I would throw Derek Brown in that. Or you're just talking about stat position. Sorry.
I'm talking about positions that can rack up some stats.
Yeah.
That's why Patrick Queen and Kenneth Murray, especially Patrick Queen, you're going to start on the the Ravens. And that's where I think Willie Gay Jr., all of a sudden, what if I tell you Willie Gay Jr. leads the Chiefs in tackles and they're the 1 seed in the AFC, and you've seen him play on a bunch of Sunday nights? Last year, for example, your Buckner comp, if Kinlaw is playing like Buckner, given they're going to play on national television a lot, he would be definitely in the mix.
Yeah, maybe even with lesser stats, right? If he's
because you just watch the Niners play, 99 made plays in every fucking game. So the stats wouldn't be as big. It's just easier to feel a starting linebacker on a really good team, right?
Well, and
they're
that's
just
where
making a lot of tackles.
When you say if we're going to include Patrick Queen, then we have to add Jordan Brooks, the linebacker. The Seahawks took 1 spot ahead of him.
I think Jordan Brooks, Willie Gay Jr., if the Chargers kind of an unknown, but it wouldn't shock us if they win 10, 11 games, right? They have a really talented roster, Kenneth Murray and Patrick Queen. I mean, you just got 4 linebackers that if they're the full-time starter, which I think all 4 will be, including, Seattle's guy, if they get 120 tackles, all it takes, if you have the tackle numbers, is like a pick 6 in a Sunday night game down the stretch, right? And be like, oh my God, this guy's taking over.
Well, and to your point, if you're playing,
because Chase Young could be, let's say he gets 10 sacks, but they're 5 wins, and he's just kind of out of sight, out of mind while he's a great player.
Hard to be out of sight, out of mind in the NFC East, though. You think about the games he'll be playing.
But they will not be on national television.
No, and he won't get credit for sacking Daniel Jones. But he will get credit for running around on the Cowboys defense if he does that twice, or the Eagles, right? Chasing around Carson Wentz. You're right. It'll be tough for him. But
if I told you the Redskins won 8 or 9 games this year somehow, you would say it'd be hard. You'd be hard pressed to not see him win the award, right?
And his defense, like he might not be on a good team, we don't think, but he is on a good defense.
With a head coach that loves defensive players.
So if they won 9 games, you would have to think that he had a pretty damn good year. But the story of them if they win 9 games, there's probably a lot of stories going on with them. I went back through.
Like, let's do this. Let's say Buckner had been a rookie too last year.
Yeah.
So Buckner and Bosa had both been a rookie. Nick Bosa still would have won that award last year, right?
Yeah.
So it just shows you, like, Buckner was unreal. I mean, it was the best season of his career. You know, it's just so hard from the defensive tackle. But Aaron Donald is, I'd say, somewhat an outlier. And Sheldon Richardson, do you know what it turns out? He never was quite the same after his early part of his career. You know, I tip my hat to Aaron Donald. Like, he's maintained as kicker, as, you know, just dominated throughout his career. But it's just, look at most of these guys are just edge rushers, are pass rushers, and linebackers, stat guys.
Aaron Donald was 9 sacks as a rookie.
And it was just like, God, it's just
5 years later, I still can't believe he had 20.5 sacks, but that's a different video. So just, could we do a little study here, John, if you will? This will be the 40th year since Lawrence Taylor was a rookie, 1981. So we've had 39 defensive rookies of the year, starting with Lawrence Taylor in 1981. So I went back and looked at the last 39. We've been staring at this list back to 2000. Here's the list before that group from 99 to 81. It's just stud after stud after stud after stud. The average draft position of the defensive rookie of the year,
6th round,
12.8. The 13th pick. Now, there have been a few outliers. D'Amico Ryans was the 33rd pick. Darius Leonard 2 years ago was the 36th pick. Kendrell Bell, who was on the previous list in 01 for the Steelers, who had a few good years but some knee injuries. He was the 39th pick. Dana Stubblefield, actually, the 26th pick. Eric McMillan, can't tell you a lot about Eric, John.
Can't either.
88 for the Jets. He was 63. And Vernon Maxwell, not the Rocket, was 29th, but in 83, that was the 2nd round. So 13, and Kinlaw was the 14th pick. So he's right in the sweet spot, at least from recent history.
One thing you see, guys, a lot of guys in the 90s, Curse, Boulware, Simeon Rice, Hugh Douglas. Stubblefield was a defensive tackle, but he was a good pass rusher. You see a lot of Derek Thomas, obviously LT, because you're just racking up. And it's just now, even more than back then, like, sack numbers spoke for themselves. I think now, because of the advanced stats, like, you get a lot of pressure, a lot of credit for pressures. Like, to me, Nick Bosa wasn't just how many sacks he had, right? I was like,
right.
God damn, the guy's in the backfield every play.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And it's a no-brainer when you watch him play. And that's where I think just Chase Young could have a season, even if they win 5 or 6 games, right? If he were to have 9 or 10 sacks and be top 5 in the league in pressures, where it's like, this guy was one of the best players in the NFL. But that's also why his odds, I mean, he's 2-1.
Do you think it's interesting that you look back, so Charles Woodson won it in 98, and then we didn't have another DB win it between 98 and Marcus Peters in 15. And now, and then that was 2 and 3 years, Peters and Lattimore in a very quick stretch. On one hand, I would think it's hard
to rack up stats at that position as a rookie, I think.
But I just wonder if now NFL offenses look more and more like college offenses. The ball is just in the air a lot more. It means more opportunities for plays. I wonder if we'll see more DBs winning this award, whether or not Jeff Okudah does it. But I don't know. I wonder if we go that long without seeing a DB win the defensive rookie of the year award again.
One thing I think when you look at those two guys, I think Lattimore was pick like 12 or 13 or 11.
11.
But it turns out, right, the Saints had just been through one of those weird like 7 and 9 stretches, and boom, they got good right away that year.
Yeah.
So it was like they were fucking ready. And Marcus Peters had fallen because he got kicked off. Chris Peterson kicked him off the team. He ends up on the Chiefs. So part of being a DB, and look at Woodson, right? John Gruden's there, and it's like you're just good. Like, to me, or just in the mix. Like, it's hard to be a DB. Like, let's say Okudah or CJ Henderson has an unreal season, but that team drafts in the top 5. I just don't think they win this. They win the award. I think it just helps when you look at that list. A lot of those guys have been Aaron Donald's somewhat of an outlier, but the last several guys have been on pretty good teams.
Yeah. All right.
I mean, Darius Leonard playoff, Bosa playoff, Lattimore playoff, Joey Bosa playoff, Peters playoff. I think that's an element to it.
So back to the odds. Favorite. You're going with, I know it's small, but
I wouldn't mind putting some juice though on Kinlaw. Like that is, he's going to be on a really good team.
Based on the logic you just gave, right? Really good team. He's not the only focus of a defense that has a lot with that has its handful with that defensive line.
I would, if I was making the odds, I think Patrick Queen has a very, very good chance to just. It'd shock me if he's not in the top 3. Like that value is pretty good.
All right,
I think the Chase Young value, it's not great, and it's going to be hard. Like he's going to have to be extraordinary to win,
which he might be.
But
let me ask you this last thing: if Nick Bosa is on a bad team last year, is he the defensive rookie of the year?
I don't think so.
So he just was Josh Allen, basically.
Yeah, he'd be in the top like 2 or 3. Like you'd be talking about him, but I think part of it is just playing in front of huge audiences on Sunday, Monday, and those primetime games on Fox in the afternoon. Like he was just playing in huge games that everyone's watching and kicking ass and taking names.
So based on this, Kinlaw 5th best odds. I think he belongs in the top 5. The real question will be, will Isaiah Simmons really have a shot at? Will they make the most of Isaiah Simmons in Arizona? But I think to say Kinlaw's got a shot. Keep in mind, Dre Greenlaw, and he said this, he played against Javon Kinlaw in college. He went to Arkansas. So it's not like he just watched some YouTubes last week, or our YouTube maybe, and decided that he was a great player.
Yeah.
All right. Let us know what you think down in the comments below.
Like the video.